Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Art Diaries. This is a new series that I've created to help me talk about my journey of art and healing. And out of nowhere, I received this inspiration to invite friends over to talk about their own experience with art and healing in all the different ways that we experience art. So it could be through creation, it could be through work, it could be through hobbies, it could be through just being an audience of art. And all of these things have their own healing properties, their own medicine that we are able to tap into when we show up for these spaces and when we show up for our own creativity from a place of wonder and honesty. So I'm so happy to introduce all of you to my beautiful, beautiful friend, Alanna. She's going to be the first conversation episode for the series, and I'm so excited to have her on here.
No pressure. The first and the last.
Oh my God. Well, you'll be happy to know I already have at least a couple of people pending for a future episode, so you are the first. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Alanna, and I'm an energy healer and intuitive and channel as well. I like to just call myself a channel because I feel like all of the things I'm able to do creatively and in terms of reading people and in terms of like even my like tech related field, that's all me being an open channel and letting everything flow. So that's the all-encompassing term that I like to use for myself.
Okay, I really love what you said, that how channel encapsulates all that you do in terms of reading for other people, and also like the stuff that you do. I feel like the stuff that you do for yourself as well, that's just out of for your own joy, is also channeled from. It's also like something that you do in a way that where you're open to the divine guidance that come through when you're in that channeling frequency. And I remember someone somewhere saying that all art is channeled. Have you heard that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Something that I love as a channel is I love tapping into I call soul frequencies, soul essences of previous like creators. So I like channeling previous artists that have recently been in bodies, like Prince, for example, or Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, Aretha Franklin, just to study and to talk to them about how they were able to get in their flow and not get out of their flow, because we all have the capacity to be channels. And I just love like the behind the scenes, seeing a musician just play their guitar and get in the flow. You can just see something click in them and then they're just completely in another world. And we all have that capacity, and not necessarily like being a musician, but doing anything and being able to get into that flow, getting that peaceful energy, and then doing something that another person would just look at you and be like, wow, you're insane that you were able to just get that out of you. And so I really love that.
It's that.
So yes, I agree with your statement.
It's that kind of like spiritual, psychic space that we enter when we're in the zone or when we're like in our mojo. I remember as a much younger artist, I would use the word mojo a lot when I'm trying to describe when I'm actually in alignment with the things that I want to create, and when I'm creating something because I'm being pressured to for whatever reason. So it's like when I'm in my mojo is when I'm creating the stuff that I want to create. And those are the things that I feel, even though they don't they don't live up to certain expectations, certain standards, because I went to school for art. So that really messes up with your creative vibes in a way where there's all these expectations and standards, and if you look a certain way, you should be making a certain art. If not, then then it's like it doesn't gel with other people's expectations of you, and then they don't see you. They just literally don't see you. It's like you have an invisible cloak on that you didn't give permission to be put on you. It's like it's crazy. I remember that feeling really well. And I also remember like coming up with side projects while I was doing art for school, and I was coming up with my own side projects just to connect, just to be able to remind myself that I can see myself, even if no one else can see me, or even if no one else wants to see me. And those are the works that I was like, okay, that's my, like when I'm making those works, the personal works, I'm in my mojo. I'm in the zone, I'm flowing. And then when I'm making works that other people want me to make, I'm like, I'm taking what I learned from making personal works, but I'm kind of like turning it into a formula. So I'm making stuff and like, yeah, it looks great, but it feels empty. Like there's no heart in it. In the same way that like my simpler sketches that I do for out of my own joy, like the level of heart that's in there, the level of feelings that other people can feel, the resonance different as well. And I could feel that like those who are more in their heart will like resonate with this work, and those who are more in their mind will resonate with this work. And it took me a really long time to be able to find a way to kind of release the pressure between both sides in order for me to like kind of align my mojo into something that is purely mine, so that when I'm sharing something, even if it is coming from, let's say, a job that's pressuring me, it's still coming from the heart. So I was able to find a way to balance and allow that to flow. I would say it still gets really stormy. The creative process can get really stormy. It's like the weather. Yeah.
Well, it's really, I mean, it can be tricky initially when you're sharing something that's so resonant, so from the heart. It's almost easier for me, and at least, to share something that was kind of empty, because that way it's like, okay, it's not so personal. So I feel safe sharing this. But then you realize, okay, this isn't me. This isn't, let me share myself more and more, which is why I started sharing more channeled writings and everything. Super scared to do it. I was so frightened to start, but then I just realized the feeling that I feel when I'm writing the poetry. I feel so connected. I feel like a goddess. I feel like the frequency, it's not even about the words, it's just like the frequency that comes through. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to share this to see if it helps other people, if other people happen to resonate with it too. And so far they do. And the people that don't resonate, you know, they can go somewhere else. But it's just beautiful when you're able to tell yourself it's okay to share your heart with other people.
Yeah, I love what you said, that it's okay to share your heart with other people. I think when you turn something into an industry, like turning art into a creative industry, we lose sight of that, of the importance of giving ourselves the permission to share our heart through this work, and to also see our interaction with creativity as a form of a gift. One thing that I'm working on right now is to reclaim art as a gift from God, as a gift from this world, as something that I'm able to receive, not just to give. Because throughout my career and also like my life, because I've been drawing since I was a baby, I've been drawing since I was a kid, and I knew I was going to be an artist since I was 5. And ever since then, it was always like, I want to make something that is going to give something to other people. And it's gotten to the point where that part of me is burning out, and it's leaving behind the ashes that's going to fertilize my reclamation of art as a gift for me. So it's interesting that you were mentioned channeling, because channeling is a form of receiving. You have to be open to receive in order to be a channel of anything. And I love that you started off with that. You started off with saying that channeling is how you express creativity. You're giving your trust, you're giving yourself the trust and the permission to share things that are true for you. And you're asking, I feel like it's almost like you are being held in support by all the souls and beings that you channel. Like they're supporting you in sharing your heart. Like you're connecting to them and you're like asking them for guidance, but at the end of the day, or at the core of it, they're holding you, they're holding space for you to get to a point where you're able to share from your heart and be like, I want to share these poems with people. I want to do this work in this way, and I want to share it with people. And like you said, whoever resonates is going to resonate, and whoever doesn't resonate, that's fine. I mean, that's how music works, right? Notes resonate with each other, and they don't resonate with all the notes, and that's fine. It's perfect. Yeah.
While you were speaking, I just saw like the imagery of me being a vessel for the divine, kind of like an Ace of Cups kind of situation. And which is funny, I pulled that card for myself today.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And in order for me to be a channel for others, and even for myself, I need to fill my cup first. Like I need to fill my cup through my daily practice, through my meditation, through like what I'm consuming. And that's not just food, that means like what I'm consuming on the internet and everything. And so, because if I'm not caring for myself in that way, then I'm not going to be a very clear channel for the divine. And then I won't be able to share that divinity with others as well. So that's, I don't know why that came up, but it did. It seems relevant and
it's so relevant. So relevant. When, as you were talking, I was thinking about how a pen is full of ink, and it has to be full of ink in order to write anything with, and that is very similar to like, you know, the framework of overflow in the Ace of Cups, where it's like, in order for you to give anything, you have to be full of it first, and not just full of it, but you also have to allow it to spill over the edges. So like when you're, I think there's a difference between like when you're full of it and you're like trying to keep it all to yourself, you're trying to keep it all in, or you're trying to control it into a certain shape or certain flow. And it's just like, I'm water, I just want to spill out, man. You know? And it's like how a pen doesn't discriminate against what you write, it's just gonna write. I just have that because I have a pen in front of me, so that was the first thing. And I've also been it's funny because I used to carry sketchbooks around all the time, and even if I go outside, even if I'm traveling or visiting a friend's house, and at any moment at all, I would just come up, bring the book out and a pen out, and I would sketch whatever it is that I want to sketch, whether it's something in front of me or something inside me. And for the past 3 years, I was actually looking back at some of my sketchbook before our conversation. And I noticed that for the past 3 years, I wasn't really keeping that practice up. And I knew I needed to take that pause, because with the creative act, there's a lot of transformation that happens. Like you create something, and then after that, you're done with it, and the process changes. There's this like rebirth cycle that happens. I feel like it's continuous. I feel like it's a continuous thing with the creative process. And you have to allow yourself to be reborn. You have to allow your process to be reborn in between the phases that it goes through. And a week ago, we were outside. This was like right before we're in our like second phase of lockdown now, but before that we had, you know, a moment of reprieve, and I was going outside as much as I can. And I think it was in this book. Yeah, it was in this book. So we sat by the sea. Let me see if it will show up on camera. We sat by the sea and yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. So we sat by the thing, and this is like actually my writing journal, but for whatever reason that day I felt like I needed to sketch again. I needed to like sketch how I used to sketch when I was younger, or before, like when I still kept sketchbooks like religiously. And I made that sketch, and like I was like really in the zone, to the point where I didn't notice my friend coming back from their walk to sit next to me, and then I was like, oh, you're back. And it was that kind of reconnection with that mojo, the reborn mojo. And I wanted to kind of use that as a segue into talking about creative play. So we've spoken about how we need to stay open in order to receive inspiration, and how it overflows into creative expression in the ways that we choose to express it, whether it's poetry or sketching, and whether it's sharing that poem or just sharing the sketch, or like allowing the sketch to come through in the form in your private journal. And now I kind of want to get us to talk about the playfulness of creativity and how important it is to maintain or to consciously invite playfulness in to acts of creativity. Because I think when we try to think about creative process or trying to like intellectualize it, it gets serious really fast.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, because I wrote something down that came up earlier, and I was like, okay, I need to talk about this. And so I'll just preface this by saying that I never considered myself to be an artist or anything. I never considered myself to be a creative, because I don't know why, I just didn't. Even though I played instruments as a child and everything, I just didn't consider that at all until now as a channel, and I'm realizing everything that I'm creating is divine and has artistry. Like it's all important. As a woman, I'm a creator, so who am I to take that away from myself? So what I wanted to say, especially when you mentioned how you went to art school, you studied art in school, and you had to do some amount of unlearning after that because the structure they taught you is just completely.
I would say I had to unlearn all of it.
Okay, you had to unlearn all of it. And I think it was Aretha Franklin when I was channeling her, or was it Maya Angelou that said like practicality just can kill your creativity. And that
burns in like all the right ways.
Yeah, practicality can kill your creativity.
Oof, yeah.
There's so many stupid rules that we're told to do. It's stupid. There's no reason for it. And what I wrote down is that the innocent child is the starting point, not the other way around. It's not about what the end result is. What is it that, like, it's not about, oh, I want to create this beautiful painting of a flower and that's it. It's about the entire process. That's what the wonder, the childlike wonder is about. It's about enjoying that every step of the way, that learning process, the feelings that you get when you discover like, oh, I can do this and I'm going to keep doing it. And oh my goodness, how do I do this? Wow, that's amazing. And all of that. Because if you just set your sights on the end process, the end goal, and you're not putting as much value on the actual work, let's call it the actual play, when you're playing and discovering, then that completely sucks. It's about, I just see a wide-eyed child. It's about bringing that wide-eyed child and doing whatever it is that will make that wild-eyed child excited and happy and exploring. That's what it's about. It's not about creating something because you think it'll be like the hottest thing and everyone will love it. It's about creating something just because you wonder, am I capable of creating this thing? Or like, I really want to, I feel it in my soul that this is how I want to express myself. That's what it's about. So use that innocent child as a starting point with your creative expression. And if they say they want to do something as crazy as, well, I won't even call it crazy. I won't use that judgment. If I'll give myself as an example, a little bit after my awakening, I really wanted to take clarinet lessons. And this was a part of inner child work for me because my parents really wanted me to play the violin because my dad used to play the violin. And I so wanted to play the clarinet. I really enjoyed it. But I picked the violin because my dad wanted me to do it, and even though I didn't like it, and so I played the violin for maybe like 10 years, 10, 15 years. And so as an adult, I was like, I'm going to learn how to play the clarinet. It felt like reclaiming that innocence, that innocent of just wanting to do something just because I just felt it in my soul, instead of choosing the violin because there are more scholarships for the violin. So just something as simple as that, giving yourself permission to just take a lesson and see what happens. Like it's so, those little steps, little harmless steps, you know, and you don't know what will come out of it. And that's what's beautiful.
Yeah. I love that you said that you don't know what will come out of it, because I think a lot of us at this, once we're already adults, we're like, we're not going to start anything new unless we can like make money off of it, or unless it will lead us somewhere. Like there has to be a pathway, an institutionalized or industrialized pathway somewhere to an end goal somewhere in order for us to get started on anything new and
monetize it somehow. Like that's always, and that's why I said the innocent child is the starting point.
Yes.
Not the other stuff that comes, not the business minded capitalism mind that we
tired mindset.
Yes.
Because it is so tiring. It's so tiring thinking in that way. And it feels like you just lose a lot of energy. And it contrasts greatly with when you do connect to the inner child and that wonder and being able to see the world, or being able to see a part of the world as if it's as if it's just brand new all over again. Like, I don't know how many of us remember that, like remember finding out that the world is as big as it is when you were a child. Do you remember the first time you learned that the world was big, like bigger than your house?
No. I just remember looking up at the sky and being afraid of the moon. I was like,
being afraid of the moon?
The moon. Yeah,
Oh, no.
I would look up at the sky and then imagine that all these aliens were coming. And I was like, whoa, this is too much.
That's so precious.
I can't handle this. I would think about, I guess that is it. Yeah, I remember that realizing, I guess then I realized that the world is so much bigger than me. It was more than the world, it was the universe, because I was thinking about the moon. I was thinking
floating rock. There's a floating rock that I cannot touch, but I can see. It's all the way over there.
Yeah. I was thinking about other things in the galaxy coming at me, and I'm like, and there's no way to run from that. My house isn't going to protect me.
That is truly so precious.
Honestly, I was afraid of the moon for so long.
Oh, no.
And like now, like these last few years, I'm no longer afraid of looking at the moon. We have a great relationship now. But the moon would just remind me of like everything that's out there that we don't know about.
That's a first for me. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's so cute. I mean, obviously, like, you know, the
it's kind of cute and terrifying.
Yeah, that fear is so real, and I'm validating baby Alanna's fear as well. I just can't stop laughing. Sorry. I remember it was so weird for me. It was like magazines that my parents had around the house, and I think it was either magazines or encyclopedias, but it was about minerals on Earth. I can't exactly remember what it said. I just remember the fact that I remember it was about minerals was also pretty impressive, actually. It was about minerals and landscape and the kind of minerals that happened in different landscapes. And I was reading. I remember like flipping through the pictures because I like the words were too tiny for me as a child to be interesting. And I was reading bits of it, and I remember flipping through the pictures, and I was like, the world is so huge. Like the Earth world is so huge. There's all these different climates. There's all this different weather. There's all this different landscapes and minerals and all these like hidden secrets in nature. And I remember that was the moment where I was like, oh, the world is big. Like it's big. Like for me, I don't know why, but for me, like stars and the moon have always felt so normal. Like it just felt like my body was like, okay, yes, the sky, all the all the stuff that's in the sky, good. I'm good with all of that. But when it came to the world, I was scared of the world probably as a child. I was like, what is this? What is this thing on the ground that green things are growing out of? What is this thing? So I became really curious about that, and I remember as a child going through pictures, and all the pictures that I was really absorbing were all photos of Earth, natural Earth scenes, and that was for me like just being able to explore all that different scenery. That was for me like my understanding of how big the world can be, because as an adult I don't know, like we get into the mindset that the world is small, like it's a small world after all. I'm like, it's not a small world. You try walking this entire planet in one day and then come back and tell me it's a small world. Yeah. And like just being able to like hold the contrast between like what we're taught, aka the world is small, and what our childhood selves understood, aka the world of the universe is fucking big. And the wonder versus that practicality that you said, because we were taught that also to be practical, right? So that we can like reduce the imagination in a way so that we become more pliable to the people around us who did not know how to protect us without using some form of control. Like that was, I think our parents grew up with that belief where it's like, if I can't control you, I can't protect you. And now we're seeing, some of us are seeing a reclamation of creativity as a form of care, where it's like me caring for you can look different. It can look like me celebrating your dreams as they're coming true, or even before they come true. Mm-hmm. And for us to like hold space for our inner child, our inner children to do what they want to do, what the things that we never got to express when we were at the age of our inner child, to do that in adulthood, like we become the parent, we also become the child, and we're able to hold space for both the unlearning part of it and also the wonder part of it. Because when we unlearn stuff, what happens is that we're getting rid of all that is no longer true for us, and the things that remain, it's kind of like when there's a forest fire and it clears everything up, and what remains is what's going to grow into the new forest. And it's that wonder that's going to nourish the soil.
You mentioned the word forest. So I was, right before we jumped on Zoom, I was just like, I wonder if there's going to be any words or a poem coming through for this and for whoever is listening to this. And like the first line that I wrote is, a whisper through the trees, the heart's forest is where you'll find your soul. So, and I wasn't gonna read it. I was like,
I just got chills.
I was like, I'm not gonna read it. But then you mentioned the forest and everything. I was like, all right, I'll read it.
It was meant to be. So this is how you flow.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, after you started the clarinet lessons as a way to like honor the desires of your inner child, like where did that lead you? What surprises did that open up for you?
It surprised me about like my relationship with self-discipline, because I did not want to practice the clarinet at all, but I was really excited to go to my lessons with my teacher. Like that was amazing to me, but practicing on my own just wasn't into it. And then I realized, you know what? That's okay. Maybe like I don't want to be a virtuoso. Like I just want to play with my teacher, and that's just fun for me. So I did that for maybe like a year and a half. And I don't take lessons anymore. I think that it served me in its place. It was like one of the first things that I needed to do to tap back into that creative center, because I was so burnt out with work and everything, and it just opened me up in a way. So I started exploring other ways. Like then I was like, I wonder what taking a jewelry class will be like, a jewelry making class. So I decided to start like taking these metalsmithing classes. And I know one day my teacher looked at me and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you look so peaceful right now. This is this is you. This is you." And then I looked up at her and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're right. I feel
Wow.
so peaceful."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I got chills again. As you said that. That is because when you see someone in their zone and then they're at peace with it, they're not in like a manic zone, because that happens too. And they're not in like a depressive or destructive zone, because that also happens. They're in a peaceful zone or a joyful zone. Like that resonance for me is so strong. Witnessing that in others just awake for me, in my experience, witnessing that in others awakens something inside your core. Like it feels like your solar plexus or your sacral chakra are getting like tickled. Like they're just like, hey, it's time for you to like, turn on too. And it's like, and it just kind of gets the wheels going, because it's obviously like we're social creatures, so our mirror neurons will fire up when something is in resonance with our inner truth.
Yeah. I'm so glad that she said that to me too, because I didn't realize it. I was just zoned out.
You were in
my
it.
mojo, like in it, just like doing it, using my blowtorch, making these links and everything. And just when she said that, something awakened in me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like to enjoy something. Wow.
Wow.
I just didn't know what that felt like before. And for the next I was just feeling so blissful about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do this all the time. So I just started spending more and more time with it. And,
Wow.
When you're tapping into creativity, something that you need to consciously do is continue to give your inner child permission to play without any expectations, without any thinking about, oh, but I'm not making enough money from this, or just give yourself permission, because it is such a precious thing for you to enjoy something, for you to feel that bliss. And what you're telling yourself is that your bliss is not valuable when you deprioritize that stuff. So don't you want to be in a blissful state all the time? Why do you want that bliss to be rare? Like that's
right.
Yeah,
Right.
so give yourself permission every day to play in that way and communicate with your inner child and see what they want to do. My inner child was yelling at me for months to do more metalsmithing for months. And I was like, I don't want to, what is that going to do? It's just, what is that going to give me? It's going to give me joy and happiness and play. And I love the process of doing it. That's what it's going to give me. It's just, so, there's still some unlearning that I need to do related to allowing myself to be creative. But it's being conscious of that and giving yourself a permission.
Yeah. When you said that you were working out the two voices within you, where it was like, what is this going to do for me? And then your inner child was like, because I love doing this. Do I not want to be in a state of love? Do I not want to do something that I love? And it reminded me of something else that I learned recently, where it was like, when you're creating something that's coming from your heart and it's in integrity with your values, it's in integrity with your bliss. Because if fun is important for you, then bliss is one of your values. just by, you know, by just with that connection that it has with joy and with happiness and peace. And when you're creating from that place, you're tapping into this frequency of being in love, because in that space that you're creating, that's the space of being in love with life. You're co-creating with life. You're co-creating with spirit as it moves through you, or as it speaks to you. You're listening to it. You're writing the poems. You're finding the words that you didn't even know you knew because it just went in the right spot.
Yeah.
I love when that happens. And I remember you sent me some photos of your metalsmithing work, and that was what kind of really sparked this idea that I wanted to talk to you about creativity one day. And then when this series happened, because this was also like the reason why this series is happening is because this is my homework from my guides on decolonizing creativity, and also like on just reclaiming my creativity. This is my homework. So when all of that kind of aligned, I was like, this is where we're going to have that conversation. It's here. And it was, I remember looking at the photos that you shared. I'm not sure. I don't know if you sent it to me or if you shared it online for a little while. I'm not sure.
I know
exactly.
I posted it on Instagram once. Yeah.
I remember looking at the design and I remember feeling peaceful. Like I felt, I don't know, there was a magnetic resonance in the, and it was quite simple. It was just like, it was a chain link necklace, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what they're called. And I just couldn't stop looking at that photo for a while. I was like on my phone, a little screen there, and I was just staring at it and just noticing every single detail that I could notice, including like how the light was catching it. And I had to like ask myself, like, why am I so drawn to this image? And I asked my body, and my body told me that I could feel the joy and the love and the peace that was embedded in this piece as you were making it.
I love that. Thank you for telling me that. That's how I feel when I'm doing it. It's so much work. It's a lot of work, but I love it. I love
so intricate.
Every intricate detail that some people would think as mundane and repetitive, but it's, for me, I'm just like, oh no, this is great. I love it.
Yeah, and just the mastery that went into it as well. Like, just, I don't know, there's when you create something that's so purely from a place of joy, what comes through, what the other person is receiving and understanding is this is a form of your self-mastery. This is a form of you expressing your sovereignty. That's what it felt like. It felt that powerful.
It's sexy, right? Like, it's just like your sacral is
yeah. Exactly. It's just like, it's like, oh, okay, like, you know, you're getting like a little taste of getting a little taste of this person's like divine light.
Yeah.
And it's exciting because it's exciting the divine light inside you.
Yeah.
that resonance is happening. Exactly. And you feel like this happens internally as well between our adult self and our inner children, where it's like that kind of like that mirroring and that resonance kind of happens, where the inner child becomes the teacher in the process of creative play, and you become the student. And in that dynamic, something happens to your body. I feel like something happens to your body where certain parts just get unlocked and certain parts just get released, certain tensions get released, and it becomes a very medicinal, sacred space. Like your body turns into a sacred space. And the things that you create, it doesn't even matter what they are. It could just be like something that you're not going to be happy with when you wake up tomorrow. But it's like you said, the process of creating it. And I kind of wanted to dive into a little bit about practice and discipline. So I wanted to ask about your personal experience with practice and discipline in relation to your inner child. Because when I find myself as a student of my inner child, I find that two things usually happen. One, my inner child will either scold me for kind of maybe like letting go of some of the disciplined practice that I keep. And the second one is my inner child will also scold me if I get too rigid about it. So I'm not allowed to be too rigid. I'm not allowed to be too lax about it. And I'm still kind of finding out what that in between looks like. So trying to figure out how to make baby Dhiyanah happy.
Same, because if I get too much of a routine, a daily routine, that it's like something comes out of me, I'm like, no, I need to do something really, really irresponsible now because it's just too much. And but in terms of discipline, that's something that we need a better word for that, because that word discipline is just
yeah, it's a tough
gross.
word. It's been I like the word practice, but because it's like, because you're never gonna, the word practice for me works because you're always practicing. So you're kind of like allowing yourself to be a student of the work of your own self, of your own inner light, through the actions or whatever that you do. And it's, I don't know if that's a good word for just such a good discipline.
I also like using the word play, like changing the word work for play, and just to remind myself that it can be fun. Like when I'm thinking about, like, I'm not the best at like utilizing my body, my physical vessel. Like I'm still getting used to having a body.
Same.
So when I think, I've been so programmed to think about working out and like self-discipline with doing exercise, but instead I can shift that to like, how do I want to play with my body today? And I can play with my body by going on a walk. I can play with my body, like it depends on anything. Like recently I want to do pole dancing, like that's how I want to play with my body, and all that stuff. So what I've learned is that the exact thing that you do doesn't necessarily matter, and I need to honor the fact that I'm going to change my mind with what resonates with me any day. What I do, what is necessary for me, just because for my mind and my soul, is that I meditate in a particular way every day. That's what I do, because I see how much more connected I am to the divine, and I see how my mind shifts when I do meditate every day versus when I don't. And when I don't meditate, I'm kind of like just a blob in the corner thinking like that life is useless and that there's no point in being here. And that's not a fun way to live. So that's why I know now, okay, start your day doing this so that we're excited about life.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Very much.
So now it doesn't seem like a chore. It doesn't seem like a chore. It seems like I'm just kind of I just see myself like plugging into my divinity. That's just what it is. Okay, let's get reconnected. Does that answer your question? Was that?
Yeah, because
I want to make sure I understood that.
Yeah. I understood it as your form of the practice or the play. How you recharge the play is, this is the thing that you do every day to help you recharge the play and recharge your connection to the values behind your creativity and your creative expression and your self-expression. So meditation for you, that's how you get back in alignment. That's how you get into that sacred space where you can allow the wonder of your inner child to guide you, right?
Yeah. Because if I don't do that, then none of the other stuff will come.
I love that you said that. I love that you said that. So you said that. So okay. If I understood correctly, you're saying that if you don't connect to that joy inside you, like nothing else gets to be aligned with that.
Yes. So that's how I start my day. Start my day connecting with my divinity, my joy through my meditation practice, and then I align with everything else. Everything else flows to me. Then I start receiving messages for like the collective. I start like understanding what it is, how I want to play, how I want to spend my day and everything. And I'm not so much tapped into whatever collective fears are out there. Because if I don't align with myself first, then I tend to look at social media and align with other people's stories. And that's not what I need to do. That's not what my journey is right now.
Yeah. This is like the perfect segue into boundaries. So does creativity come into play when you're doing any kind of energetic boundary setting work or any kind of force field setting work in your energy work practice or in your energy work care? Does creativity come into play?
Can you rephrase that?
So how do you utilize, or how would you say, no, let's start again. Does creativity impact the integrity of your boundary, and how, if so?
The only thing that comes up for me is like my boundaries with the beings that I channel.
Yeah.
I have very like strong boundaries about that. Like we come to agreements about stuff. Like my intention when I channel is not to be someone's entertainment. It's for us to learn to be students. That's my thing. So if I'm gonna channel someone like Prince, I don't want to talk about his lifetime and what his favorite food was and all of that stuff. My agreement with Spirit is to have him teach us what he knew about what he mastered in his lifetime, everything. So that's the kind of boundaries that I like to set. And I invite spirits into me. It rarely happens the other way around. Like they send me messages in some way through music, stuff like that. But I'm very strict about what I allow into me. They don't just like. I'll give you an example. I was a part of a mediumship circle, and they really enjoyed going to haunted places to channel the spirits, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna go. And they were like, why not? It's so much fun. You're so great. Come on, like we would really like to see you there. And I'm like, no, that doesn't sound fun for me. Like I just don't see the point. Like, like I honor that you love it, but it's not for me to sit there and connect with whatever spirits are there, because there's a lot of spirits out there and they don't always have like there's a lot of discernment that you need to have.
It's true. This is very, very true.
So it's not fun for me to just hang out in a spot and be like, okay, spirit number one, what do you have to say? Like that's not for me.
And how does that tie in with, let's say, your relationship with your inner child? Does that the determination and the confidence of the boundaries that you have with the spirit realm, does that translate in any way into your relationship with your inner child as you navigate the adult world with all its expectations and all its, programs that try to come into you and is like, excuse you, no.
I think it's a lesson in that there's no hierarchy. It's like, yes, you're in the spirit, you're the spirit and love to everyone, but just because you're a spirit doesn't mean that I'm going to put you on a pedestal necessarily. That's what it means. It means like this needs to be a mutual agreement.
A collaboration rather than
collaboration, exactly. I'm not going to just surrender to everything and just let the spirit just do whatever it needs. And whenever I initially channel spirits, I'm like, okay, what do you have to teach? Before I publicly channel you, what is it that you have to share?
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that it's in alignment. And there's always some type of integration. Like you were talking about your artwork, whenever you've completed a piece, there's a death and rebirth. The same thing happens when I channel spirits. I need to spend time with myself. First of all, if I don't spend enough time with myself, then I won't recognize myself. So I need to spend time with myself, and then I integrate the spirit, and I understand its lessons and everything. And I learn through them, through whatever lessons happen in my life. And I'm very conscious of that. I have to be very aware of that. And then once I'm ready, once I've done the public channeling, whatever, once I'm ready to release the spirit, then there's a period of reintegration, coming back into myself. And I honor that completely. And that's what needs to happen in order for me to return back to myself. Something that my inner child keeps wanting me to talk about is, so I had a situation where I was speaking with like a romantic partner, and really like tapping into my sacral energy and stuff. And my inner child would have such like a little tantrum. And I would say like, okay, what is the problem? And then she reminded me, like, what she really wanted to remind me is that I can connect this way with myself. Like, I don't necessarily need to connect with another individual to get this activated, that my metalsmithing is doing the same thing. And that's why she was always like reminding me, like, do this, because I don't need to be necessarily sexually active with someone to get it activated. My metalsmithing work that brings up all the sexual nature too. And what she wanted to do is to not just focus on all of that, but to also teach me to do it in another way too. So hopefully that is helpful for someone, because she kept wanting me to bring up that story. And I was like, that might be too personal. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll say it. She was essentially like, hey, get your head out of your ass, your horny head out of your ass, and do some metalsmithing, because this is also super activating, and you don't need to like necessarily connect with another individual for it. So that was a big lesson for me.
I actually think that's so important, especially with everything that we're going through now collectively, with the lockdowns and the political disruptions and just the uncertainty that's going on collectively, and how much loneliness has turned into a thing to be avoided at all cost, or something that is a burden rather than a doorway to the gift of aloneness. And I think that's a really beautiful way that you just described, where it's like you could give there's this thing that we're taught where, like, when we are needing something, we need to look for it outside of us, especially if it's love, especially if it's sexual satisfaction or connection, or of any kind, right? Or even just like resources, we have to look for it outside of ourselves. And as sovereign beings, we're taught by the universe and by spirit itself that we have everything we need inside us, and that by tapping into the internal resources, we're able to then allow the external to reflect the inner abundance. And this is, obviously, like, in this current era that we're going through, I think it's going to be, some people are going to be able to see this clearly. Some people are going to reject this outright because it's just not what they're seeing currently at all. And that's fine. It's perfect wherever they are. It's perfect for them. But I do want to, like, I want to hear what you have to say about that inner abundance and the allowing, giving your power away to a program of loneliness that has convinced you that you can't also tap within. You can't also tap into the inner, you can't tap into the abundance within. Like, you are not alone, but your aloneness is a gift, and it can be used as a gift. And loneliness turns into a burden the more we are convinced that we need to get connectivity from outside of us. Like it's not either or, it's both. We need to
Yeah,
connect to
both.
ourselves in order to connect to each other. But I think right now it's really hard for people to see that because of physical distancing and all that. And also, like, it's really hard to meet new people now. Way harder than it was literally just 12 months ago. And maybe some of us might be feeling a bit regretful about, like, oh, maybe I should have gone out more and made more new friends because then I have more friends to talk to now. So there's a lot of negative polarizing energy around loneliness right now that I'm feeling into the collective energy, and it's definitely also, you know, like, it's bringing up some shadows in me as well, where it's like, okay, these are the parts of me that used to feel like this about loneliness, and there's some residues of social anxiety there that's related to that. And I'd really like to hear your thoughts on the link, that interconnectivity between the inner abundance, the loneliness, and what we're all going through, what we're all journeying through together. Because I feel yeah, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. You feel?
I just wanted to say also, like, because I feel like that journey and how you described it, it encapsulates that so perfectly.
I think it was a good reminder that I don't need another person to feel specific frequencies within myself, like to feel the joy. Like you said, connecting with another person, that's important. Connecting with ourselves, that's also important. Both are important. And what my inner child showed me is that I don't just need this other person. Like, I'm really feeling this other person and loving the feelings that come up for me. But these feelings are mine. Like, it's me that I'm feeling. And there are other ways that I can feel myself through just being by myself, being with myself, doing other activities. And it's not just like that this person has this. It's that I'm activating this within myself. So that's another reason why it's so important to, like, play with your inner child, play with your innocence to unlock these types of feelings that you don't explore otherwise. Because, like I said, we sacrifice our joy and our play for other things like money. Like, there's someone named Jen Ward. I don't know if you've heard of Jen Ward. She does the spiritual freedom technique, and she has a book on money and a relationship with money, and she has lots of taps related to that. And something she says is about, like, sacrificing your love and joy for money, meaning that money takes priority over, like, you'll just take a job that makes you feel like complete crap just because it gives you money. And then you'll deprioritize feeling any love, bliss, joy, deprioritize any creative things that really get you in the flow, simply for a job that gives you money, but also makes you feel dead inside. So it's really shifting our focus into what makes us feel more alive, and understanding that that's actually way more important, and that changes our relationship with money, with abundance, and helps you realize that the feeling of joy is so important. Especially now, you see a lot of suffering in this world. You see a lot of unrest with what's happening in the US with politics.
Yeah.
You see there's so many people that are just watching the news 24/7, like, trying to figure out who's going to be the next president. And maybe that serves you fine, but it's also important to, I'm losing my train of thought. It's also important to connect back to yourself, to come home.
Yeah, come home to you. And, like, what is, and the creative play is part of our own healing around coming home to ourselves, because we get to define what kind of home we are to our inner community, our inner child, our inner teenager, our shadows, our higher self. All of them live within us. This is a vessel, and even spirit, right? We're also vessels for spirit. Hours
And
for
then
the
in
day.
that way, whatever is happening outside of us, you can always tap into your peace.
Yes, like
You
there's a
always tap
door
into
that you
that.
can close.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you said really taps into the idea of freedom and how even though we're seeing a lot of external evidence that we don't have the freedom that we want, or that freedom is something that we have to fight for and that we're not going to get it in our lifetime, there's always that internal world that we can tap into, and that so many people in the past in different and even more heinous circumstances have tapped into to find peace, the peace within. I remember whenever I think about this, I always think about the poet Nazim Hikmet and how he was mostly in prison. I can't remember exactly what, I can't remember his biography anymore, but he spent a lot of time in being imprisoned for his political writings or just for his political beliefs. And he wrote poems while he was in prison, and a lot of them were about celebrating life. And you can tell that this was someone who has not stopped living just because someone else, like just because a force has put them in a small box. He hasn't stopped living, and he never did. You can tell by his poetry that he never once stopped believing in life. And you know, obviously there's going to be moments where he probably did forget about that. But what his poetry is able to do for us now is to be able to kind of like give us that key to unlock any parts of ourselves that we've placed in our own personal prison cells for the sake of wanting to believe that we have to fight, or we have to we have to continuously be in a state of stress in order for us to make sense of what we're seeing outside of us. So a lot of the things that we're seeing outside of us, we're seeing in the news, we're seeing in social media. It's not really stuff that we're seeing in our personal lives until it becomes, until you invite that frequency into your internal world, and then it becomes part of your personal life. And there are ways to do that where you can still do it and have your boundaries intact. And it takes a lot of coming home to yourself, coming home to the part of you that's still able to see the world as if it's brand new, as if it's full of wonder. And I honestly think some people, I honestly think right now that there are people who are being called to be parents or be caretakers of children, specifically to reconnect to the parts of themselves that, you know, that just that moment where you realize that, oh, the world is huge. The world is so much bigger than my house. And it's that realizing that the largeness of the world, what you're really discovering is the largeness of your own perspective, the largeness of your own perception, the largeness of your own possibility, your own potential, your own creativity, and your own joy. And that's what we're tapping into when we create stuff out of joy and pleasure and peace. And I also love that you connected that to money, and you said that the more I think you said something about when you connect and you create from that place of joy, money becomes like you're changing your relationship to abundance, to resources, and you're then also able to change and shift your relationship to money so that instead of it being this colonial construct of ownership, or yeah, I would say ownership, because a lot of people who think that they have money to hire someone thinks that they own this person's energy or their agency. And that is a very colonial thinking, because when you think about everyone as sovereign being, what you're really doing is you're giving money to this person because you trust that person. So that will be like the paradigm shift that you're entering into when you move from money as a controlling force into money as a instrument for your joy.
Yep.
And that comes from constantly coming back, allowing all parts of yourself to constantly come back to that joy, the home of your joy. Because it's in that home of your joy that you're able to then overflow that love and joy into the external world, into your relationship with the external world. Whether that's relationship or money or
you just realize what abundance really is, and it's not just money, it's love, it's affection, it's friendships, it's all of that good food. Like
good food, yes. clean air to breathe.
Clean air, water. I was looking at my goblet of water and I'm like, wow, I get fresh water. Like, I have clean
Yes.
water, drinking water.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And
I was so grateful that day.
it's so funny because one of the oracle cards I pulled for myself today was gratitude.
Mm.
Like how it's just like coming up organically in this conversation.
Yeah. Should I show you some images?
Yes, please. I was just about to ask. All right, cool. Let me share screen. Okay.
Okay, so this is just an example of some of the work I'm doing right now. I'm so obsessed with making chain
Oh my God, I
right
love
now. So this
the
is
detail on the link. The links are crazy.
so this is one of the necklaces that I've been working
Wow.
on.
Wait, hang on.
And
Now I need to like stop, like end share screen so that we can see that necklace. Hang
it's
on.
also there. It's where the snake is. But it's
That's beautiful. Look at that. Look at that
so
detail.
it's so much fun to
It
make.
looks
And
so
then
alive.
I'm working right now. I'm doing all of these as necklaces and bracelets, and then I'm doing earrings as well.
Mhm.
So this is a
Is that the one that's,
bracelet.
is that the thicker one
Yeah,
on the picture? Yeah.
that's right.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
So
Wow.
I just like have so much fun making I make all of the individual links.
I was just gonna ask,
My
yeah,
own.
I was gonna
Yeah.
ask if you shape them individually.
Mm-hmm. And then
I can
I
tell that you,
use
and then
my
I can
flow
tell
through
from
it.
the workmanship that you do, but it's so seamless,
Thank you.
so beautiful.
And then just little like I wanted to just do this little snake. I love snakes, so I wanted to
I
do this
was,
little snake.
I really wanted to talk to, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about this today. That's so beautiful. I like my Chinese zodiac is a snake, and
Oh, really?
we recently visited a snake temple here in Penang.
So I wanted to
Oh
play
wow.
around with snakes.
Hang on, let me stop
I
sharing.
like making rings, but
Yeah.
my first love is making chain, and then whenever it
Oh.
inspires me, then I'll make some rings as well.
Oh wow. I
But
love how that looks in your hand.
thank you.
It's gorgeous.
Maybe I'll send this to you.
we do have a trade coming soon.
And then also in the picture is this stone. This is like a beautiful quartz stone that I'm going to be working with. And
Ah.
so the thing with working with gemstones is that I ask it like how it wants to be used. Because when I first saw it, I thought like, oh, I'm gonna make this into a ring. It's gonna be just like a gaudy ring, but it wants to be a necklace. It
Love
wants
it.
to it wants to
Mhm.
help heal the throat chakra. And so I have like
Oh.
fun plans for this beautiful thing. It's so I don't know if you could see it,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
could see it.
so faceted and beautiful and
It almost looks like a diamond, just the
yeah,
way it's been faceted.
yes, exactly. It's such a clear
Mm.
quartz. So
Yeah, just how much light that it's able to like reflect and hold.
exactly.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And then I have something that I want to share with you guys because this process isn't always beautiful. So just because, okay, I showed you some beautiful pieces. Now I want to show you this.
Love
This is
it.
ugly, right? It's not pretty.
Why would you
But
say it's okay? Why do you say it's not pretty? I'm curious now. What beauty standards are you holding this up
okay,
to where you think this is
okay.
ugly?
So let's just. I'm sure. Okay, so I showed you beautiful. Like I think my jewelry is there. I think it's a masterpiece.
They're
I love it.
gorgeous.
I'm so proud
Yes.
of it. And this is my first painting that I've done since I was like a child. I did this painting months ago because I was like, I want to play around with just acrylics. And
Yeah.
just because. So I tapped into my higher self. I said, what is it that we want to paint today? And while I was painting it, I felt so wonderful. And I didn't care about what the end result would look like.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to show this to you.
Okay.
So if there's anyone who's like watching and feels like, oh, but I don't have any, like,
yeah,
I don't know what it is that I would do creatively. I literally just like picked up some acrylics and just started painting. I have no training whatsoever. I don't know what I'm doing. I just did it because I felt amazing when I was painting this. And that's why I wanted to show it.
That's what I feel when you, so when you put this up on the screen and you were like, this is an ugly painting, I'm like, I don't feel that at all. What I feel was that it was fun, that it was loose, that it was fun, and it was open. Like it's just something that's so open. Like it invites you to imagine what you want to imagine it to be. It doesn't have to, it's kind of like, it's free in that way. It's not limited to any definition. And I do like that you're also kind of showing us something that, you know, here's a medium that you don't usually do, you don't usually work with.
I don't do at all. Like this is like, I don't know this medium at all, but this is showing you like you don't need to know it. Like,
yes.
I did it for my first time and it felt great because I let it flow out of me. And I did this at a time when I felt so stuck creatively. I felt like a little bit dead inside, and I allowed myself to do this, and it opened me up in so many ways. This thing, I call it an ugly painting because like compared to like the beautiful, I have so many wonderful visual artist friends who make beautiful paintings, including yourself, and so like, and then I'm here like, look what I made. But I'm showing it proudly because I'm proud of myself. Like it felt so good to do.
I love that.
I thought it was important to share.
Thank you. That is so important to share. Thank you so much. Like, what a treat. And I love that you showed, you know, like work that was so refined and needed training to create, and then work that was just like, bleh. I was feeling like this and I want to make this, so this is what happened. And they're both like, and I'm hoping whoever's watching this and whoever watches this in the future, I'm hoping you'll be able to tap into the feelings behind, you know, when you were looking at Alanna's jewelry, what were the feelings that you can feel in your body? And when you're looking at the painting, like what feelings are being reflected from within you? What is that reflecting? What is the painting or the piece reflecting for you? What's something that's already inside you? I'm really losing my words. That makes sense.
I understood it.
Okay, good.
What is it activating within you? What is it
thank you.
That's coming through? Yeah.
It's a more eloquent way of putting it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start recording soon. We can talk a little bit more after, but I think we've shared such beautiful sharings today, and I'm losing my words. So I'm gonna take that as a sign that this episode is done. And I just want to say thank you so much, Alanna, for joining me in this conversation. I really love the way you share, the honesty and the openness with which you share. I can feel that it comes from the heart, and I can feel that it's honest in a way where like you are so confident in your truth.
Thank you.
It's confidence, and it's gentleness in the way that you execute, in the way that you express yourself, because you trust in that truth so much, and it shows in the way you speak about your truth, and the way you embody your truth, and in the way that you carry this hope in you as well. Like I can feel the abundance of it really comes through. And it's always a blessing. It is always such a joy to be in the space with you, even if it's like, you know, this virtual long distance space. So I hope that we'll have more conversations and more fun collaborations, because this is our second, this is our second collaboration. And I'm sure y'all will be seeing a lot more of us in the future.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this space. It was so good to talk to you, as always.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for watching and listening. Whenever you come to this episode, it's the right time for you. And I hope that this has sparked some inspiration. I hope this has given you something to think about, something to play with, something to feel. And I hope that whatever it is that you receive from this, it will do you, your heart, and your inner child. It will bring you, your heart, and your inner child so much joy and love. Thank you.
Thank you.